Since its inception 3 years ago, Aurora has truly been able to reach the world, not only through the laureates' work, but through the work of their designated organizations, and you'll be seeing them on the map here. Now, these people working on the ground to make a difference are all true modern-day heroes. But no heroic act is possible without inspiration, as Alice said, and inspiration lies at the heart of empowerment. This year's Aurora Humanitarians are going to share their stories with you today. They're going to have a series of one-on-one discussions with an Aurora Selection Committee member. So first, I'd like to welcome to the stage Sunitha Krishnan. Sunita. Sunita is co-founder of Prajwala. And talking to her today will be Gareth Evans. Gareth, of course, President Emeritus of the International Crisis Group, Chancellor of the Australian National University, former Australian Foreign Minister, and Aurora Prize Selection Committee member. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Jane, and Sunita, first of all, warmest congratulations on being an Aurora finalist. You have been described as a pocket dynamo, the tiny powerhouse from Hyderabad, who, since the establishment of Prajwala in the 1990s, mid-1990s, has achieved some really fantastic things in the protection of trafficked women and their children, sex workers, to the extent that you have now established what is acknowledged to be the biggest sex trafficking shelter of its kind in the world. I know in all of this you don't want to focus so much on the past as the future, but perhaps you could begin by just sharing with us a little bit more about that incredibly harrowing experience that you had, which initiated all those years ago, which really initiated and inspired your activism.
Thank you, Gareth. At 4 feet 6 inches, I think it's a good inspiration for everybody. If I can do this, all of you also can do it. It's very easy to do it. It's not so great and so heroic. I don't want to dwell so much about the rape per se. I was gang raped by 8 men. But I think what changed me and what transformed me is what came after. The exclusion, the ostracization. There was a period in my life from my birth to 15 years where I was the best child of my family and my community. I was a role model. And suddenly I was the worst human being. I was characterless, I was moralless, and I was accused of a crime that I did not commit. The sheer injustice of that. And then I took a decision during that time.
Can you explain what happened that you were accused of? Because a lot of people won't know.
You know, the rape per se was definitely something which was extremely unpleasant, if I may say so. But, you know, when your whole family is accused of giving you too much of freedom, and that's why it happened. Everywhere you go, I remember there were parents who told their children not to sit with me because I would corrupt their minds. Meaning I would sit in a bench and people will actually move out of me. I was treated to Cold War for many months. For 2 years, I was subjected to extreme exclusion. I think compounded with the fact was a thing that, life is about the choices you make. So I made a choice not to be a victim. I made a choice to be a survivor. And when you make a choice to be a survivor, you behave in a certain way. And you start saying, when I'm not responsible for this. If anybody should be ashamed, it's the 8 men who raped me who should be ashamed of themselves. So why are you looking at me like this? People didn't like that. Meaning all of us, and it's not just Indian community, but everywhere in the world, we like to see people, any victim crying and hiding their face and, going in depression. That really titillates us. We are very, very happy to listen to those kind of stories, and our heart bleeds. We don't like a survivor standing up boldly and saying things. And so when I said that at the age of 15, people didn't like it. So it became a double stigma. Look at her, she's so arrogant, she's so moralist, she doesn't learn from her experience. And in many ways, that kind of thing, I've been hearing it for the last 27 years. Even today, there are even my colleagues in my sector who would say that I'm talking about my rape experience, maybe to get better funding or to get more name and fame. Meaning, that is the kind of mindsets we are talking about, where you're mentally excluding people. I went through that for 2 years, and that the sheer injustice of being unfairly accused of a crime that I did not commit, I think that anger is my triggering point. And very honestly, that anger is what has driven me for the last 26 years. The anger sustains me, and that anger has only grown in the last 26 years, because today I see thousands of such cases. I deal with 8 months baby being raped. I deal with 10-year-old child who's been raped thousands times in a brothel, and I see the attitude of the community still the same. My children, my girls are rejected. Nobody likes them. You like to listen to a story like this, it's fine. You like to see a movie like this, it's fine. But it is not fine to give them a job. It is not fine to accept them back in your families. It is not fine to provide them with empathetic support, which will... So today, my name itself is a bad name for my children. You know, that's the stigma I face. If you say you're from Prajwala, it means, oh, you are sex trafficked, or you're raped. So, you know, I personally carry a baggage of bad name for my children and my girls.
Your organization has 5 main objectives: prevention, rescue, rehabilitation, reintegration, and advocacy. We haven't got time to discuss in detail all of those things, but could you just pick out a few highlights of where you think in those last 20 plus years you've been most successful against those objectives?
I think there would be 3 major achievements that I can talk about. In prevention, we have prevented a few thousand children from being inducted into prostitution and sex trafficking by intervening at the second generation level, at the intergenerational level, because a child of a prostitute would be the first target for to be a potential victim. So we've been able to start learning centers for these children, over 9,600 children. So we've been able to show that there is a way that it can be prevented. In prevention also, we have engaged with men and boys. And I think that has been something which has become very successful over the years, because today I have huge number of informers from across the globe who keep giving us information. There's a 10-year-old child there, and these are men who either are buyers or are walking around buyers. And I think there's a huge impact. The second achievement, I would say, is we've been, for centuries, people have believed that this is kind of a necessary evil. You want to live with sex slavery. Sex slavery is not a story of India, it's a story of every country which is sitting here. And somewhere we have kind of given up in our minds. And we think, oh, this cannot change, you cannot really, rehabilitate or restore dignity in the lives of such victims. And there are even a section of the society would say, let us legitimize it, let us legalize, brothels and prostitution so that everything becomes, okay to do it and there's lesser exploitation. What we have been able to show is that it is possible to remove people from exploitation. It is possible to empower them. It is possible to restore dignity in their lives. And more than anything else, it is possible to empower them as leaders who can lead a movement. Today, the organization that I run is led by survivors. 50% of my staff are survivor leaders who are leading the movement. They are doing the rescues. They are doing the community awakening. They are doing the entire churning of the community to show us, a way out. The third thing that I think we have achieved is being able to break the silence within our governments on this issue. So much of denial on this problem. Through our advocacy work, we've been able to push the government to look at this problem. And today, at this point of time in 2018, we're looking at a comprehensive legislation to combat trafficking in India, thanks to not only my effort, but many, many other people like me who are working in India. But also, we have been able to push tech firms like Google, Facebook, YouTube, and many other companies to look at, taking accountability for the content on their space. All the social media sites are becoming the biggest platform today for the circulation of rape videos. And we have forced the tech firms to look at whether they can play a role in blocking this content.
One of your most adventurous bits of advocacy was publishing on the web very graphic, harrowing videos of women being raped, their anonymity secured by fuzzing out their faces, but keeping the men's faces very clear indeed. You got a lot of backlash over that, but has the overall impact of that been to make a difference in the way policymakers have responded to these issues? Are you making progress?
I think if you see India before 2015 and India after 2015, and when I say 2015, it is in February 2015 that I started the Shame the Rapist campaign. And that started with 2 videos that I got from 2 concerned citizens, and one was this rape of a 12-year-old girl by 8 men, and another was this rape of this woman and a third person doing. What outraged me was, here were these 8 men who were raping this girl, actually flaunting their rape. So they were telling the camera guy, come this side, and he's masturbating and he's saying, take my portion of it. That smiles on their face, and that's the reason that I put those videos up, because I wanted to show the world what we are coming to. All of us today here are responsible for contributing to an enabling environment of impunity. That is what they were flaunting. I can do this, I can record it, I can disseminate it, and nothing will happen to me. We went to the Supreme Court. The case has been now given to the Central Bureau of Investigation. For the first time, the country accepts there's impunity of this kind and something more needs to be done. But also for the first time, the tech firms who have been the basic platform, and I think tech firms have played a very, very big, important role, not only in the good things of the world, but also in the bad things of the world. And one of them is to give all the rapists and perpetrators of sex offenses across the world the confidence to do it with a lot of courage. And that has been confronted for the first time now.
Sunita, tell us a little bit more about the rehabilitation and reintegration component of your work. When you get these terribly distressed and people coming to you with incredible life stories, how long does it take to get people back on their feet with sufficient confidence to go back into the wider community? Is there any general rule about this, or just tell us what your experience has been? What do they leave Prajwala with?
Just for the context, you need to understand what is the profile of the person that I'm dealing with. A 12-year-old child in a brothel means, I'm giving you a very modest number, say 10 customers a day. In most red light areas in India, it will be 40 to 50 customers a day. But let's take the least number, 10. That means 3,650 men a year. And if she has been in a brothel for 5 years, it means close to 18,000 men in 5 years who have raped her every day. None of us rescue a girl as soon as she comes in. We rescue her 4 or 5 years later. So the person who comes in our hand is a person, who has no trust in humanity, has no trust in herself, has actually started normalizing the experience of being exploited every day. Here's a person who now feels nobody's going to accept me back to the world, so I'm like, okay, it's okay to get raped every day, it's okay to be, in this world of exploitation, then come out of this. So that is the person. This person is also having a huge, plethora of infections. She's sick, she's got sexually transmitted infections, she's got traumatic brain injuries, she might be, HIV positive, and she might be having all kinds of other ailments. Plus, she's a substance abuser. She's an alcoholic. You can't be having sex with 10 men a day if you are sane. You'll have to be intoxicated to be doing that. So she's a substance abuser. She's drug addict. It is this person who's coming in my hand post-rescue. And therefore, my first challenge is to ensure and create an enabling environment for her to, first of all, accept that she's a victim. Because she's kind of repeatedly telling, I am doing this because I like it. Why are you removing me from that place? That's the primary dialogue that she would tell me. So it takes a lot of time to first provide her that initial support, apart from giving her all the health and other benefits. But then, rehabilitation is about a combination of processes. It's a combination of psychosocial interventions, trauma care, counseling, psychiatric intervention. It's also about life skills, because so much of your body gets damaged in a brothel. I sit like this and you sit like this because this is what we have been told from our childhood, this is the right way to sit. But in a brothel, you're told to sit with your legs wide apart. You're supposed to be looking at men and people around you when you have to seduce them, you have to bring them to you. That is the competition, that is the target. So your entire body has changed. So you require a lot of life skills to unlearn all the damages of that. And then, based on an age-appropriate method, we work, like with children, we take education as our method. With adults, we use vocational training. So today, many of my children are doing medicine, they're doing law, they're doing pharmacy, they are professionals in multinational companies. My women are working as welders, as carpenters, as masons, as television camera assistants, as gym trainers. So a whole lot of things goes into rehabilitation. And this combined with restoration of their civic identity to get a name in the society. A small thing is like a bank account, gives you a name. A passport is a name. So getting that becomes the last part of rehabilitation process, which leads to reintegration.
Just to give people a sense of the scale of your achievement, about how many women and their kids have you assisted in these various ways over the 20-plus years that Prajwala has been operating?
Gareth, I actually don't like your question because I don't see anything that I have done as an achievement. I, more than anybody else, and I don't think any of you all sitting here, know what I have not done. When I go to a red light area in Delhi, in GB Road, or in Kamatipura in Mumbai, or in Pune, Budwarpet in Pune, I may pick out 100 girls and come out. But if I have to look back, there will be a 6,000 that I have not done. There are 3 million official number of women and children in sex slavery in India. I have done just a dot. I've just removed 20,000 of them. It's not even a speck of the problem. So I don't consider that as a big achievement. But what I consider as a big achievement, maybe I have not changed the world, maybe I have not changed the whole situation of sex slavery, but I have definitely changed the world of each one of that human beings whom I have pulled out of sex slavery. May not be each one of them, but out of the 20,000, around 18,500 of them, I know I have changed their world.
Given the magnitude of that task that still lies ahead, what are your greatest challenges and obstacles in continuing the work that you're doing?
I fight against organized crime, so obviously my occupational hazard is to get beaten up by the criminal syndicate. So it's a very normal thing for us to get beaten up and physically assaulted. I've been personally assaulted around 17 times in my life. My offices have been evicted, I have been moved out, I've been thrown out. But that is an occupational hazard. But I think the bigger challenge that I face is the attitude of the world and the society. The amount of work that we do to rescue a person, and when the world rejects that person, I think that is a bigger challenge. My bigger challenge is the apathy and inaction of the so-called good in the world. the governments, the civil society who know it and choose not to do anything about it. To me, that's a bigger challenge. One Sunita is not going to change the world. I am aware of it. That's my bigger challenge. How do we multiply the number of people who can come into this mission and do what we are doing?
Just a final question. You did say once that your ultimate goal was to end sex trafficking globally. How do you feel in terms of the progress that's being made in that direction? Are you a Bernard Kouchner pessimist full of gloom and anxiety about the state of the world, or are you a Gareth Evans kind of incorrigible optimist that with the right kind of mindset and the right kind of energy and commitment and inspiration that you've shown, you can in fact get there eventually? How do you feel about this? Are you optimistic?
Absolutely. I think if all of us sitting here in this hall, in this room, each one of us take a decision today that we will engage with 2 men and boys in our lifetime and tell them the story and make them real men of the world who don't abuse children. I think it's possible. If each one of us take a decision to change the way men and boys are brought up in the world across the globe, you know, every family takes that responsibility. I think it will end, you know, like this, if we want to. It's just that whether we want to do it or not. And I believe, yes, we want to do it and we will do it.
Please join me in thanking Sunitha Krishnan and wishing her every success for tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sunita and Gareth. And actually, we're now going to show you a video which will let you see exactly some of the extraordinary work that Sunita and her co-workers do in India.
The most transformative part of my journey was being gang raped at the age of 15. I think that changed my life in many ways. What bothers me is the fact that I was treated as a criminal by the society. There was so much exclusion that I was subjected to for a crime that I had not committed at all. That anger drove me into believing that I want to commit my life. I want to commit every breath in my being for somebody who's going through a situation like mine. In India, hundreds of sex crimes are committed every day. The government estimates that there are around 2 to 3 million children and women in sex slavery, which actually means that the numbers could be anything between 15 to 18 million.
धमकी देने के बाद में वो लोग को बात सुन के आई तो 3 दिन का रास्ता है, वो लोग अच्छा से खा ले रही पी ले रही, मेरे को कुछ भी नहीं दे रही, तो मैं रो रही, तो मैं मजबूर होके हाँ बोले तो जब मैं क्या करूँ ऐसा करके बोले कि मेरे को सीधा नहीं करेगा तो बेले से काट देती, गर्दन काटती.
Prajwala is an anti-trafficking organization working on the issue of sex trafficking and sex crimes. From rescue to rehabilitation and reintegration, we are involved in all aspects of anti-trafficking. We also do a lot of work in prevention. The most important thing is to prevent second-generation prostitution by providing educational opportunities to children of women in prostitution. We enter brothels and rescue children and women out of sex slavery. Today, even seeing a 3.5-year-old child being sold into a brothel is not very surprising. That, to me, is very, very scary. So, rescue per se is very, very dramatic act. What is more challenging is the rehabilitation. How much time does it take? I don't know. Because every victim is unique. Somebody takes a day's time, somebody takes a week's time, somebody might take a couple of years' time to come to this recognition. Today, my girls have come a long way. Thousands of them have gone back to the society. They are living a very, very dignified life. Thousands of them have gotten married. Young women are trained here as builders, welders, carpenters, all of them in viable economic option. In
2015, I received 2 rape videos on WhatsApp. It was shocking, to say the least. I exposed the faces of the rapists, requesting the public to support me to find these sex offenders. There were thousands of rape videos in circulation. Is there a day when all this will end? I do believe, yes, this will end. That is my mission. My mission in life is to end sex slavery from this world.